Imagine you've spent, the last 10 years pouring your absolute soul into building a business.
Oh, yeah. The classic 80-hour weeks.
Exactly. You've worked the crazy hours, you've missed the family dinners, you've navigated all those ridiculous supply chain crises, and you finally built this multi-million-dollar company.
Right. It's a huge achievement.
It is. But then you decide you're burnt out. You're ready to sell. So you sit down across a conference table from a potential buyer, and they look at your life's work, review your operations, and they offer you absolutely nothing.
Wow. Yeah.
They just walk away because they realize that without you sitting in that owner's chair, this entire company is completely worthless.
That is a harsh, brutal reality. But honestly, it happens every single day in the mergers and acquisition space.
Wait, really? Every day?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the sweat equity that an entrepreneur celebrates so much, that's often the exact thing that terrifies an investor.
That paradox is exactly what we are unraveling today. We are taking a deep dive into a really comprehensive framework provided by Australia Business Broker.
Yeah, it's a fantastic resource.
It really is. Their guide is called How to Increase the Value of Your Business Before Selling. And it's essentially a masterclass in exit strategy. So our mission for you, the listener, is to figure out how to transform your business from this daily, exhausting grind into a highly valuable, highly sellable asset.
Because that transition is not automatic.
No. Not at all. So we are going to explore the psychology of the buyer, the hidden risks you probably don't even realize you have, and why navigating this process alone is just a surefire way to leave massive amounts of money on the table.
You know, a crucial mental shift has to happen before we even get into the mechanics of all this.
Okay, what kind of shift?
Well, when you run a business, you are selling a product or a service to a customer.
Right.
But when you prepare for an exit, you're no longer selling a product. You are selling the business itself as an investment vehicle to a buyer.
Oh, wow. That's a completely different mindset.
Exactly. Those are two fundamentally opposed value propositions, and they require completely different strategies.
Let's pull on that thread, actually, because the very first concept we encountered in our research gave me serious pause.
The timeline.
Yes, the timeline. The guide says the ideal preparation timeline to prep a business for sale is 1 to 3 years before you even think about going to market.
Yeah, 1 to 3 years is the standard recommendation.
I have to push back on that, though. I mean, if I'm an exhausted owner and I've finally made the emotional decision to get out, I want out now.
Of course you do.
Why does it take 36 months just to put a for sale sign on the metaphorical door? I mean, if I want to sell my house, I call a real estate agent on a Tuesday, and we are hosting an open house by Sunday.
Well, the house analogy is actually a perfect lens to view this through, provided we look a little closer at the actual mechanics of a real estate transaction.
Okay, go on.
If you want absolute top dollar for your property, you never just list it as is on a whim.
Right.
You have to fix the foundation, replace the leaky roof, maybe tear out that ugly carpet, landscape the yard.
Right, you stage it, you manufacture the curb appeal.
Precisely. Now take that staging process and amplify it by a factor of 100. A business is not a static building. It is a living, breathing financial organism.
That's a good way to put it.
When an investor looks at your company, the absolute baseline metric line, that the very first hurdle you have to clear before they even care about your brand or your product, is your fundamental financial health.
And I'm guessing financial health isn't a light switch you can just flip over a weekend?
Not at all. Step 1 is improving that financial performance. You need to increase revenue, reduce unnecessary expenses, optimize your pricing, and establishing a bulletproof track record of all that takes years to prove.
I suppose that makes sense from like a trend line perspective. A buyer isn't going to be fooled by 3 months of sudden aggressive cost cutting right before you sell.
Right. They are incredibly risk averse. They are not purchasing your past glory, and they definitely aren't buying your historical struggles. They are purchasing your future cash flow.
So if you only have a single quarter of high profits,
they'll just assume it's an anomaly. Or worse, a manipulated ledger. They want to see a consistent upward trajectory that's been proven over multiple fiscal cycles. That's what establishes trust in the machine you've built.
And trust is severely compromised if that machine is, documented on the back of a napkin.
Oh, absolutely.
Step 2 in the framework makes a massive point about organizing and strengthening financial records, but let's look at the psychology of that. Say a buyer comes in, asks for your financials, and you hand them this disorganized shoebox of receipts, outdated profit and loss statements, confusing tax returns.
But total nightmare for a buyer.
Right. But why does that specifically kill a deal? Is it just because they don't want to do the math?
It goes much deeper than laziness on the buyer's part. Disorganized books act as a proxy for operational incompetence.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, a buyer looks at a messy balance sheet and immediately thinks, well, if this owner doesn't even know what they're spending on basic overhead, they definitely don't know if they're compliant with labor laws.
Or if their inventory is just rotting in a warehouse somewhere.
Exactly. It screams hidden liabilities. They assume there are skeletons in the closet.
Always. So having clean, meticulously organized profit and loss statements, balance sheets, cash flow reports, that really does heavy lifting in a negotiation.
It does. It drastically accelerates the due diligence process and strips away that perceived risk. Because think about it. If a buyer has to hire a forensic accountant to untangle your tax strategies just to find your actual margins.
Yeah, that sounds expensive.
It is. They will either walk away entirely or they will slash their offer price by hundreds of thousands of dollars just to insulate themselves against the unknown.
Let's talk about the math behind that offer price, actually.
Yeah.
Whenever entrepreneurs discuss selling, there is this intimidating alphabet soup that inevitably gets thrown around.
No, you mean EBITDA.
Yes, EBITDA's the big one. How does a seller even begin to wrap their head around how a buyer calculates the actual value of their life's work using that?
Well, EBITDA sounds intimidating, but it simply stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization.
Okay, that is the literal definition of the acronym. But why does a buyer actually care about that specific formulation? Like, why not just look at the final number on my end-of-year tax return?
Think about what a tax return is actually designed to do.
To make me cry.
Well, yes, but legally, it is designed to make your business look as poor as legally possible so you pay the government less money.
Right. That makes sense.
You might have aggressive depreciation schedules on your equipment, or maybe heavy interest payments from a loan you took out to buy out a former partner. A buyer does not care about your historical tax mitigation strategy.
Or my personal debt structure.
Exactly. They want to see the raw, unvarnished money-making power of the core operations. EBITDA strips away all that accounting noise to show the true operational profitability.
So they take that raw profit number, and then what? How does that actually translate into a sale price?
They apply what is called a market multiple. So if your industry is booming and highly desirable, a buyer might pay you 4 or 5 times your EBITDA. But if your industry is risky or in decline, that multiple shrinks. Your job as a seller during those 1 to 3 years of preparation is to aggressively drive up that EBITDA number so the multiplier works in your favor.
That perfectly sets up our next major hurdle. Let's say you have spent 2 years doing exactly that. The EBITDA is phenomenal, the trend line is pointing to the moon, the accounting is spotless.
Sounds like a dream.
Right. But the framework introduces a terrifying reality check here. Step 3 is about reducing owner dependence, because all those beautiful numbers mean absolutely nothing if the business collapses the moment you, the current owner, hand over the keys.
The owner is universally the single biggest point of failure in any small to medium enterprise.
This brings us to the concept of making yourself entirely obsolete. The research insists that stepping back is perhaps the most critical operational shift you can make.
It really is. A business reliant on the founder's brain is fundamentally less attractive to the market. Consider this scenario. If you went on a 3-month vacation to a remote cabin with no internet, no cell service, what would happen to your company?
Oh, I'd come back to ashes.
Right. Would it grow? Would it stagnate? Or would it burn to the ground? If the answer is anything other than it would run seamlessly, you do not actually own a sellable asset. You simply own a very demanding job.
I love that distinction. It really illustrates the difference between selling someone your grandmother's secret recipe versus selling them a fully staffed, automated bakery.
That's a brilliant analogy.
I mean, if I buy the recipe from you, I still have to wake up at 4 in the morning, mix the dough by hand, manage the ovens, run the cash register. I am just buying a second job.
Yeah.
But if I buy the bakery, I am buying a self-sustaining system that prints money while I sleep.
And investors pay mass premiums for systems. They are hunting for turnkey operations. They want to park their capital, hire a general manager, and just watch the returns roll in.
Right.
But achieving that requires you to actively extract the institutional knowledge from your own brain and physically manifest it into the business infrastructure.
Which brings us to steps 4 and 8 in the guide. building strong systems and optimizing operations. The magical acronym here is SOPS, Standard Operating Procedures.
Yes, SOPs are vital.
But I want to push on how that actually works in practice, because writing a Word document about how to answer the phone doesn't seem like it adds $1 million to evaluation.
Well, it isn't about answering the phone. It is about mitigating the friction of transition.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Imagine your business relies on a highly temperamental overseas supplier. Currently, you, the owner, are the only one who knows exactly when to call them, how to negotiate the bulk rate, how to navigate the customs paperwork.
Oh, I see.
If you leave, that supply chain breaks, the inventory dries up, and the buyer's investment tanks.
The knowledge basically dies with your exit.
Exactly. But if you build an automated inventory management system, integrate a CRM, a customer relationship management tool, and document the exact procurement workflows into an airtight SOP, you have transferred that relationship from your personal brain into the corporate infrastructure.
So the manual, the software, and the trained management team.
That is what the buyer is actually writing the check for.
You are transferring the DNA of the business so it can survive without its creator.
Precisely.
Okay, let's assume you've achieved this. The bakery runs itself. You have extracted yourself from the daily operations. It feels like you're finally ready to cash out. But our research material introduces another profound layer of risk. We have to look outside the building.
Right, external threats.
Yeah. Internal operational perfection is only half the battle if the business is vulnerable to external factors.
A self-driving car is still going to crash if the bridge it's driving on collapses.
Exactly. And I want to play devil's advocate here on a very specific point regarding customer bases. Step 5 insists that you must aggressively diversify your clients before selling. It warns that relying on a small number of customers destroys your valuation. But wait a minute. What if I'm a logistics company and I landed a massive multi-year contract with Amazon? They make up 80% of my revenue, a literal whale of a client. Shouldn't a buyer be absolutely thrilled that I landed a whale and have guaranteed money rolling in?
I know it's deeply counterintuitive to the entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah.
But to an institutional buyer, your whale is absolutely terrifying.
Why? It's guaranteed cash flow from a blue chip company.
Because they look at that revenue distribution and they see fatal concentration risk. If 80% of your revenue is tied to one single entity, you don't actually own an independent business. You are essentially a subcontractor masquerading as a corporation.
Oh, wow. I never thought of it like that.
The buyer takes on all the anxiety of that single relationship.
Because if the relationship sours, the business is instantly bankrupt.
Think about the power dynamics when the business changes hands. The whale client knows they make up 80% of your revenue. When they hear the business was sold, the first thing they're going to do is call the new owner and demand a 15% discount on services.
And threaten to take their business elsewhere if the new owner doesn't comply.
Exactly. The buyer has zero leverage. They either take a massive hit to their profit margins or they lose the client and the entire investment is wiped out overnight.
That completely flips the perspective. The whale is basically a hostage situation for the new owner, so the solution is aggressive dilution.
You have to prove broad market appeal. If you expand your marketing, target new segments, and dilute that whale down to, say, 15% of your total revenue across 50 different clients, a buyer breathes a massive sigh of relief.
Right. Because if one client out of 50 gets angry and leaves, it is a minor bump in the road.
But if one client out of 2 leaves, it is catastrophic.
That concept of securing the future leads directly into step 7. The necessity of long-term contracts. The guide emphasizes locking in supplier agreements, customer contracts, service-level agreements. This feels like building a fortress around the revenue.
Contracts act as a tangible insurance policy for the buyer's capital. Predictability is the ultimate currency in M&A.
Predictability.
Yeah. If a buyer can audit your books and see that 60% of your revenue for the next 24 months is legally locked in through binding service agreements, the perceived risk of the acquisition just plummets.
It guarantees them a financial runway to take over the operations, learn the ropes, and get comfortable without that paralyzing fear that the customer base is going to evaporate in month 2.
Predictability reduces uncertainty, and reducing uncertainty increases the valuation multiple. It is a very clean equation.
But there is another external threat that can stop a deal dead in its tracks, no matter how good the contracts are. Step 9. Resolving legal and compliance issues.
Ugh, yes. This is the equivalent of finding black mold in the walls during a home inspection.
The source material lists things like expired licensing, unresolved employee disputes, incomplete vendor contracts, regulatory noncompliance. But realistically, doesn't every business have a little bit of operational friction? Why is a pending HR dispute from 2 years ago such a deal killer?
Because an asset sale is also a liability transfer. Buyers are terrified of purchasing your past mistakes. A pending lawsuit from a former employee isn't just an annoyance. It is an unquantifiable financial black hole.
Like writing a blank check.
Exactly. If there is a zoning issue with your manufacturing facility or your core software architecture violates a copyright somewhere, the buyer is the one who will be left holding the bag when the regulators show up.
So they just walk away?
They will either walk away from the negotiating table instantly or they'll demand an escrow holdback.
What's that?
It's where a massive portion of your sale money is locked in a bank account for years, just in case they get sued. You have to clean the mold before you host the open house.
Okay, so we have audited the financials. We have made the owner functionally obsolete through SOPs. We've diluted the concentration risk of the customer base, locked in the contracts, and resolved every lingering legal headache. The machine is bulletproof.
It's looking good.
Now we arrive at the final frontier: how the market perceives this machine, how you attach a price tag to it, and the emotional pitfalls that sabotage sellers right at the finish line.
Right. Because functionality is crucial, but perception drives the final premium.
Step 6 in the framework focuses heavily on strengthening your brand and market position prior to a sale, enhancing the online presence, accumulating stellar customer reviews, building deep brand loyalty. But, if I have strong EBITDA and solid contracts, why does a buyer care about my Yelp reviews or my social media presence?
Because a strong brand dramatically lowers the buyer's future customer acquisition costs.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. If your business has incredible organic momentum, strong community goodwill, high search engine rankings, the buyer doesn't have to spend a fortune on advertising just to keep the lights on. The reputation of the business does the heavy lifting for them.
It's like free marketing built into the purchase.
Exactly. Social proof acts as an independent verification that the business actually delivers on the promises made in the financial spreadsheets.
But here is a psychological question that I think strikes at the absolute heart of every entrepreneur. Step 10 is understanding your business valuation. How do you objectively value something you built with your own hands?
It's tough.
I imagine it is incredibly difficult not to overvalue your own company. It is your baby. You remember the night sleeping under your desk to make payroll. You remember sacrificing your weekends. How does an owner separate their immense emotional investment from the cold reality of market value?
That is undeniably the most difficult psychological hurdle in this entire process. It is completely human to look at your business and unconsciously factor your personal suffering and sacrifice into the asking price.
Yeah, you feel like you're owed for that time.
But the brutal truth of the open market is that a buyer does not care about your sacrifice. They do not care about your sleepless nights. They only care about the data, the risk profile, and the EBITDA multiple.
Which is why an objective third-party valuation isn't just a good idea, it is a structural necessity. Because if you let emotion drive the pricing strategy, you fall into the most dangerous trap mentioned in the research: overestimating business value based on ego.
If you let your ego set the price, you overprice the business. It hits the market, and sophisticated buyers immediately recognize the math doesn't work, so the business sits.
And sitting is bad.
It sits for 6 months, then 12 months. It becomes stale. The market starts to wonder, hey, why hasn't this sold? What hidden disaster did other buyers find in due diligence? It becomes toxic.
Yikes.
Conversely, if you are just exhausted and guess at a lower price to get a quick exit, you risk leaving generational wealth on the table.
The overarching theme of everything we have discussed today is immense complexity. Preparing a business for an exit is not a DIY weekend project you figure out by watching tutorials.
No, definitely not.
It requires deep financial strategy, rigorous operational restructuring, and an incredibly specialized understanding of buyer psychology.
Attempting to navigate the M&A landscape without professional guidance is incredibly reckless. You are going up against institutional buyers and private equity firms who do this for a living.
Right, it's their day job.
Exactly. They know how to spot every weakness, exploit every disorganized tax return, and leverage every unwritten process to drive your sale price down.
So what is the practical application for you, the business owner listening right now? The primary takeaway is that you absolutely cannot do this in a vacuum. You need a reality check, and you need a specialized team. Partnering with experienced professionals who understand the nuances of acquisitions is the smartest investment you can make to protect the value of your life's work.
You need advisors who can objectively identify those value improvement opportunities, properly position the asset in the marketplace, attract highly qualified buyers, and vigorously defend your valuation during intense negotiations.
And that is specifically where the team at Australia Business Broker steps in. They provide the exact professional guidance necessary to help you navigate this labyrinth.
They really do.
They take the emotional guesswork, the ego, and the anxiety out of the equation, replacing it with hard data and proven strategy to help you achieve the absolute best possible outcome for your sale.
And getting a baseline understanding of your current position doesn't require a massive initial commitment. A critical first step is simply getting a professional, free business valuation, just to understand exactly what your company is worth in today's actual market conditions, devoid of emotion.
If you are even remotely considering an exit strategy, or if you simply want to know what your operational machine is actually worth, you need to reach out to them. You can start the process by visiting their website at www.australiabusinessbroker.com.au. You can email them directly at info@australiabusinessbroker.com.au, or you can call their team at 0478-478-501.
Do not leave your exit strategy to chance. Let the experts help you prepare.
Because ultimately, transforming your business isn't just about dressing up a balance sheet for a stranger. It is about fundamentally building a resilient, stable, and elite asset.
Which brings us to a final, slightly provocative thought to leave you with today.
Oh, I like where this is going.
We have spent this entire deep dive discussing the 1 to 3 years of preparation, the grueling cleanup of financials, the extraction of the owner through SOPs, and the fortification of contracts, all for the sole purpose of eventually selling to a buyer.
Right.
But consider this mindset shift. Even if you have absolutely no intention of selling your company anytime in the next decade, running your business as if you are preparing to sell it tomorrow is actually the ultimate secret to running a highly profitable, completely stress-free business today.
That is a brilliant reframing. A highly sellable business is, by definition, just a flawlessly run business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whether you are planning to hand over the keys to a private equity firm in 3 years, or you are just desperately trying to take your first uninterrupted, phone-free vacation since you founded the company, the mandate is exactly the same.
You have to stop selling your grandmother's secret recipe. You have to start building the bakery.
Build a bakery. The market demands nothing less.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Get those financials organized, extract those processes from your brain, and we will catch you on the next one.